Hello fight fans, thanks for joining us at MMA Insider. Before we get rolling with today's news, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing. Now let's uncover the latest happenings in MMA. Starting off, Chael Sonnen presents two jaw-dropping theories behind Sean Strickland's delayed UFC return. Next, Joe Rogan previews wild Khamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whitaker fight. Lastly, Tom Aspinall on Jon Jones. Chael Sonnen thinks Sean Strickland's ongoing UFC hiatus might be a small part of the UFC's big plans for his next fight. Strickland remains sidelined after losing the UFC middleweight title to Dricus du Plessis at UFC 297. Amidst his ongoing absence, Strickland has expressed frustration with the UFC's hesitancy to book him an immediate rematch with the South African. Sonnen, a former UFC middleweight star, thinks the UFC might be plotting a big-name matchup for Strickland's next fight. Here is what he said: "I have two guesses, and they're very different. One is Sean Strickland is used as a backup fighter for either Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya or Robert Whitaker versus Khamzat Chimaev. Second, there's a reason that Nickal is getting the push, the shine at UFC 300. I don't know what it is, but my guess is at some point he's going to have to play with one of the big names. That big name that's sitting there, available, is Sean Strickland." UFC commentator Joe Rogan believes that Robert Whitaker is the biggest test of Khamzat Chimaev's fighting career. Earlier this month, Khamzat Chimaev was announced as the main event for UFC Saudi Arabia on June 22nd. There, Khamzat Chimaev will meet former middleweight champion Robert Whitaker in the first 5-round bout of his career. For his part, Whitaker is coming off a unanimous decision victory over Paulo Costa in February. Meanwhile, Khamzat Chimaev hasn't competed since a majority decision victory over Kamaru Usman last October. For those who remember that bout, the Chimaev largely dominated the early action. Like most, Rogan wonders how his fight with Usman would have gone if it were 5 rounds instead of 3. Regardless, the UFC commentator is excited for the 5-round headliner. Later in the podcast, Joe Rogan opined that the bout would be the first real test for Khamzat Chimaev up at 185 pounds. While the Chimaev has defeated many at middleweight, none are as good as Robert Whitaker. Here is what he said: "That one is going to be wild. That's a wild fight. That's a wild fight. That's a real fight. That's a real fight for Khamzat." Whitaker is a big dude. He's a big, solid, beefy 185 former champion. Both guys started at 170, but it was too hard to cut to 170. That's a real 185er. They gave him Kamaru Usman, and Kamaru didn't have a chance to prepare for that. This is Robert Whitaker with plenty of time to prepare. When UFC heavyweight champions Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall crossed paths earlier this month, chances are one of them was scared in the moment. It was probably Aspinall. Aspinall, owner of an interim UFC heavyweight title belt, has made no bones about his desire to face Jones in a title unifier ever since he put the champ's reign in dispute by claiming gold with a knockout of Sergey Pavlovich last November at UFC 295. And now, just a couple of weeks after his brief encounter with Jones at a sporting convention in Birmingham, England, Aspinall has no qualms admitting that he fears the man many consider the greatest UFC fighter of all time. But certain that's not a bad thing. Here is what he said: "Do I fear him? Absolutely I fear him, but that fuels me. I want to prove that I'm the best in the world. I'm obviously confident that I could beat Jon Jones because I want to fight him. I want to fight Jon Jones, but he doesn't, so there's not a lot I can do about that." Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Your dedication and support fuel our passion to bring you the latest and greatest in the MMA world. If you enjoyed today's news, please give us a thumbs up and share it with fellow MMA fans. Remember to subscribe to stay in the loop with daily MMA updates. We've got a lot of exciting news, interviews, and analysis coming your way every single day. Your engagement helps us grow and serve the MMA community even better. Once again, thank you for being an integral part of our daily MMA journey.